Have you ever felt a chill crawl up your spine in the heart of a dense, silent forest? A feeling that you are not entirely alone, that unseen eyes are watching from the shadows between the ancient trees. Imagine that feeling amplified, a palpable sense of dread that hangs in the air, a place where the veil between our world and another seems terrifyingly thin. This is the story of such a place, a region of stunning natural beauty in southwestern Vermont that holds a dark and unsettling history. It is a place the locals speak of in hushed tones, a place known as the Bennington Triangle. Nestled within the Green Mountains, the area is centered around the imposing Glastonbury Mountain. For centuries, Native American tribes considered this land cursed, a place to be avoided. They spoke of a malevolent stone that would swallow any person who dared to step upon it, and of the four winds meeting in an eternal struggle at the mountain's peak, creating chaotic and disorienting weather patterns. It was a place for burying their dead, not for the living. These ancient warnings, dismissed as folklore for generations, would take on a chilling new significance in the mid-20th century. The modern mystery of the Bennington Triangle began to unfold in the autumn of 1945. The first to vanish was 74-year-old Mitty Rivers, an experienced hunting and fishing guide who knew the woods around Glastonbury Mountain like the back of his hand. On November 12th, Rivers was leading a group of 4 hunters back to their camp. Nearing their destination, he moved ahead of the group, a familiar sight to his companions who assumed he was eager to get the campfire started. They were wrong. When the rest of the hunting party arrived at the camp, there was no sign of Mitty Rivers. The fire was not lit, and the woods were silent. A thorough search of the immediate area yielded nothing. As hours turned into days, a massive search effort was launched, involving hundreds of local volunteers and even U.S. Army soldiers. For 8 grueling days, they combed the dense forest, but the wilderness held its secrets tight. The only trace of the seasoned woodsman ever found was a single, solitary rifle cartridge in a stream. Just over a year later, on December 1st, 1946, the Triangle's most infamous case occurred. Paula Jean Weldon, an 18-year-old sophomore at Bennington College, told her roommate she was going for a long walk. She was a vibrant, independent young woman, and a solitary hike was not out of character for her. Dressed in a conspicuous red parka, she was seen by several people as she hitchhiked to the entrance of the long trail, a rugged path that winds through the Green Mountains. Several witnesses reported seeing Paula on the trail that afternoon. An employee of the Bennington Banner gave her directions. A group of hikers spoke with her, and an elderly couple recalled seeing her distinctive red jacket about 100 yards ahead of them. They said she rounded a bend in the trail, and when they reached the same spot moments later, she was simply gone, as if she had vanished into thin air. Paula Jean Weldon never returned to her dormitory. The initial response to Paula's disappearance was muddled and disorganized. At the time, Vermont had no state police force, and the investigation fell to local sheriffs who were ill-equipped for such a complex case. Frustrated by the lack of progress, Paula's father, a prominent industrial designer, was fiercely critical of the local authorities. The ensuing search was massive, with hundreds of volunteers, the National Guard, and even the FBI joining the effort, but no trace of the young student was ever found. The investigation into Paula Weldon's disappearance was fraught with challenges and strange leads. A local lumberjack named Fred Gadet, who lived near the trail, became a person of interest. He gave conflicting stories to the police, and at one point allegedly told 2 people he knew where Paula was buried, a claim he later recanted. Despite suspicions, no evidence was ever found to connect him to the case. The lack of any clues only deepened the mystery, leaving a community on edge and a family desperate for answers. Exactly 3 years to the day after Paula Weldon vanished, on December 1st, 1949, the Bennington Triangle claimed another victim in one of its most baffling cases. James E. Tedford, a 68-year-old World War I veteran and resident of the Bennington Soldiers' Home, disappeared. Tedford had been in St. Albans visiting relatives, who saw him safely board a bus back to Bennington. He was seen by multiple witnesses on the bus, including an acquaintance he spoke with during a stop in Burlington. The bus journey continued, making its scheduled stops. According to the other 14 passengers and the driver, Tedford was still in his seat, seemingly dozing, as the bus rumbled towards its final destination. Yet, when the bus pulled into the Bennington station, James Tedford was gone. His belongings, including his wallet and an open bus timetable, were still on the luggage rack above his empty seat. He had vanished from a moving bus, surrounded by witnesses, with no one seeing a thing. The search for James Tedford was delayed, as he wasn't reported missing for a week. Investigators were perplexed. How could a man simply disappear from a moving vehicle? The bus driver and passengers were questioned extensively, but none could offer any explanation. The bus had not made any unscheduled stops. It was as if Tedford had dematerialized. Theories ranged from a planned escape to a more sinister, unseen event. But without a body or any evidence, the case grew cold, adding another layer to the Triangle's chilling reputation. The autumn of 1950 would prove to be a particularly dark period in the history of the Bennington Triangle, with 2 disappearances occurring in just 16 days. On October 12th, 8-year-old Paul Jepson vanished. His mother was a caretaker at the local dump, and she had left him playing happily in their truck while she tended to some pigs for about an hour. The boy was wearing a bright red jacket, making him easily visible against the landscape. When she returned, the truck was empty. A massive search was immediately launched for young Paul. Hopes were high that his vibrant red jacket would make him easy to spot. Hundreds of volunteers scoured the area. A bloodhound was brought in and managed to pick up the boy's scent. The dog followed the trail along a road to the very same intersection where Paula Weldon had been seen 4 years earlier. And there, the scent abruptly ended, as if the boy had been lifted off the ground. No trace of Paul Jepson was ever found. The disappearance of a child sent a new wave of fear through the community. How could a young boy simply vanish in broad daylight? His father told a local newspaper that for days leading up to his disappearance, Paul had talked of nothing else but the lure of the mountains. Some darker rumors circulated, with whispers that his parents might have been involved, a theory for which there was absolutely no evidence. The more likely, and equally terrifying, theory was an abduction, but the abrupt end of the scent trail left investigators with nothing to go on. Just 16 days later, on October 28, 1950, the Triangle's strange power seemed to strike again. Frieda Langer, a 53-year-old woman from North Adams, Massachusetts, was camping with her husband and cousin near the Somerset Reservoir. An experienced hiker and survivalist, she was very familiar with the area. While hiking with her cousin, Herbert Elsner, she slipped and fell into a stream, soaking her clothes. Annoyed but unhurt, Frieda told her cousin to wait for her while she took a shortcut back to their campsite, only a half-mile away, to change into dry clothes. It was a short distance, a path she knew well. Her husband was resting at the camp, nursing an injured knee. Herbert waited and waited. Frieda Langer never returned. When he went back to the campsite, he was horrified to learn that she had never arrived. The search for Frieda Langer was extensive and immediate. Over the next 2 weeks, 5 separate searches were conducted, involving aircraft, helicopters, and around 300 volunteers. They combed the woods, the trails, and the area around the reservoir, but found nothing. It was another complete and baffling disappearance. An experienced hiker had vanished on a short, familiar path, just minutes from her destination, leaving behind no clues, no tracks, and no witnesses to her fate. For months, Frieda Langer's case remained a cold, unsettling mystery, another name added to the growing list of the vanished. The dense woods of Glastonbury Mountain seemed to have swallowed her whole, just as it had the others. The series of disappearances in such a short span of time had created a palpable atmosphere of fear and speculation. The tight-knit communities of southwestern Vermont were left to wonder what unseen force was at play in their beautiful, yet menacing, mountains. Then on May 12, 1951, more than 6 months after she disappeared, a breakthrough occurred. Frieda Langer's body was found. Her remains were discovered by fishermen in an open area near the eastern branch of the Deerfield River, about 3.5 miles from where she had vanished. The discovery, however, only deepened the mystery. The area where her body was found had been searched thoroughly and repeatedly in the weeks following her disappearance. The condition of Frieda's remains made it impossible for medical examiners to determine a cause of death. She was so decomposed that no definitive conclusion could be reached. How had her body appeared in a location that had been meticulously searched multiple times? Had she been there all along, somehow missed by hundreds of searchers? Or had her body been moved there later? The questions were as numerous and as unanswerable as before, offering no closure, only more disturbing possibilities. The Langer case marked the last of the 5 widely recognized disappearances within the Bennington Triangle during that 5-year period. With 1 body found under inexplicable circumstances and 4 individuals still missing without a trace, the legend was cemented. The events left an indelible mark on the region, fueling decades of speculation and folklore. What could possibly explain this bizarre and tragic cluster of vanishings? The theories are as varied as they are unsettling. The most straightforward explanations point to the inherent dangers of the wilderness. The terrain around Glastonbury Mountain is rugged and treacherous, and the weather can be notoriously unpredictable, with sudden, disorienting shifts in wind and temperature. It's plausible that some of the victims simply got lost, succumbed to the elements, or fell victim to accidents. But this doesn't fully account for the strangeness of each case. Could a serial killer have been stalking the trails of the Green Mountains? This theory has been considered, but it presents its own problems. The victims were diverse in age and gender, ranging from an 8-year-old boy to a 74-year-old man, which doesn't fit the typical pattern of a serial predator. Furthermore, with the exception of Frieda Langer, no bodies were ever found, and there was no physical evidence at any of the scenes to suggest foul play. This lack of conventional evidence has led to more esoteric and paranormal explanations. Local author Joseph A. Citro, who coined the term Bennington Triangle in 1992, noted the area's long history of strange phenomena. Stories of UFO sightings, mysterious lights in the sky, and strange sounds echoing through the hills have circulated for generations. Some have even suggested the existence of an interdimensional portal or a vortex that the victims may have unknowingly stumbled into. The folklore of the region is rich with tales that add to the unsettling atmosphere. Besides the Native American legends of a cursed mountain, there are stories of a Bigfoot-like creature, sometimes called the Bennington Monster, said to roam the deep woods. One 19th century account tells of a stagecoach being attacked by a large, hairy beast. And then there is the tale of the Wildman, a killer who supposedly escaped from an asylum and lived in the mountains in the 1890s. Another peculiar aspect noted by researchers is the timing of the disappearances. Most of the victims were last seen in the late afternoon between 3:00 and 4:00 p.m. and all 5 of the core disappearances occurred during the final 3 months of the year, between October and December. Whether this is a mere coincidence or a clue to some unknown natural or unnatural cycle remains part of the enduring enigma. The aftermath of the disappearances brought significant changes to the state of Vermont. The heavily criticized handling of the Paula Weldon case directly led to the creation of the Vermont State Police in 1947. Her father's public campaign for a more professional law enforcement agency shamed the legislature into action, ensuring that future investigations would be handled with greater resources and expertise. It was a lasting, tangible legacy born from an unsolved tragedy. The case of Paula Weldon, in particular, has had a lasting cultural impact. Her story, the disappearance of a bright college student who walked into the woods and was never seen again, captured the public imagination. It inspired author Shirley Jackson, who was living in North Bennington at the time, to write her 1951 novel, Hangsalmon, a chilling psychological tale loosely based on the events. The mystery continues to be a subject of books, documentaries, and endless online discussions. The towns of Glastonbury and its neighbor Somerset, once moderately thriving logging communities, are now essentially ghost towns. The population dwindled throughout the 20th century, and the land was largely absorbed into the Green Mountain National Forest. Today, only the remnants of old buildings and silent cemeteries remain, testaments to a time before the woods reclaimed their own, adding to the eerie, abandoned feeling of the entire area. Over the years, other strange occurrences have been reported within the Triangle. Hikers speak of a profound and sudden sense of disorientation, of compasses spinning wildly, and of an oppressive, unnatural silence in the woods, devoid of the usual sounds of birds and insects. Some have reported hearing disembodied voices on dead-air radio signals, or seeing shadowy figures flitting between the trees. The area seems to possess a strange energy, a palpable presence that many have found deeply unsettling. Today, the Long Trail remains a popular destination for hikers. Most who travel its path do so without incident, experiencing only the profound beauty of the Vermont wilderness. Yet the stories of the Bennington Triangle persist. They are whispered around campfires and shared in hushed tones by locals. The names of Mitty Rivers, Paula Weldon, James Tedford, Paul Jepson, and Frieda Langer are now woven into the fabric of New England folklore, their fates a permanent, chilling question mark. What truly happened in those woods between 1945 and 1950? Were these 5 individuals the victims of tragic accidents, a cunning predator, or something far stranger, something that defies our understanding of the world? The forest keeps its secrets. The trails wind on, through the shadows of Glastonbury Mountain. And the Bennington Triangle remains one of America's most profound and haunting unsolved mysteries. A chilling reminder that there are still places on the map where people can simply walk away and never be seen again.